The Cat's Whiskers podcast is proudly sponsored by the Bunkers Hill Hockley. Don't miss Panthers game day offers, including Coors Light at £2.50 a pint. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Cat's Whiskers podcast. My name is Jono Bullard. I'm delighted to say with me this week to chew the fat are Tina Taylor.
Hiya.
Antoine Marie-Jeanne.
I'm not chewing the fat, I'm chewing donuts.
And it's a warm welcome, sugary welcome back to Mr. Aaron Lord.
Good evening, everybody. I do not have donuts.
And neither do I, due to pre-diabetes. So, there we go. I have a glass of water. That is it. That is all the sugar content I can handle these days. Anyway, we will... Enough about my health problems and more about the agenda tonight. We'll be reflecting on Panthers going out of the CHL in a blaze of glory against the Zurich Lions, as well as looking back on Panthers' game against the Braehead clan on Saturday night in the Challenge Cup. We'll reveal the player of the week, look at the other Elite League results and news before looking ahead to Panthers' 2 games this week. On Wednesday night against the Belfast Giants in Belfast and on Sunday at the NIC against the Cardiff Devils. But to start with, it's back to Tuesday night and Panthers against the Zurich Lions. Panthers were 3-1 down from the first leg, but Zurich Lions showed their quality and came away with a 3-0 victory for a 6-1 aggregate victory, which takes them through to the quarter-finals, where they will face Liberec in the next round of the CHL. Lions goals coming from Frederick Pettersson with 2 and Roman Vick. So we're not going to talk about the game as such because we've already done that on our post-game podcast that we did last Tuesday. But it's more about what the CHL campaign has meant and also how do we use it to motivate us for the rest of the season. So Aaron, I'll let you kick off with that one.
Oh, thank you very much. What has it meant? It's meant a great deal, you know, for the club, for the organisation and for the city. And I think for us as fans as well, because it just surpassed all of our expectations. I think, you know, when we were doing podcasts before the competition started, you know, obviously you look at trying to win a couple of games. So to top the group is just unbelievable. And, you know, I think it's still quite difficult to actually sort of appreciate what we did. And I don't think we can't big it up enough, really. I know there will be some people think that we do and that it's not important, but I really do think it's going to be something that in a few years' time, whether that's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years' time, or even, you know, longer than that, you're going to look back at this season and this team and what we achieved, and it's going to be talked about still, and it will be referred to. And then the second part of the question, how do we use it to motivate us for the rest of the season and beyond, is, you know, it's pretty simple for me. Do you want to face those teams again? Do you want to go and qualify again? Do you want to try and better what we did this season? And I think, you know, there's only one way that we can guarantee that, and that's by winning the league. So, and I think we've now got to the stage where this is a real opportunity for us to actually not just make sure that it's a one-off when we've had these sort of occasions in the past, you know, like when we won the league, we said, right, this is going to be the start of, you know, a period of time where Panthers look to dominate and stuff like that. And obviously we didn't do that. But I think really now, and Neil Black, to be fair, in the Nottingham Post report said, you know, we are now one of the big boys when it comes to European clubs, and we can face these teams and compete with them. So I think that's the motivation. It's simple. You know, do we as a club want to get into the CHL through, you know, the right way, if you want to describe it like that, but by being champions of this league? Because we all know that we've got the capability and the skill to do that. But we also know that the Elite League season is a long season, and we're coming into the difficult couple of months now where the games come quick and fast. It's cold, they'll be travelling, etc. Do you want to go and get those 2 points, which will help us to hopefully win that league? So it's just been an amazing campaign, and like I said earlier, it's far surpassed anything that I thought it would do, and I enjoyed every bloody minute of it. All the nights, it was amazing. It's what we come to watch this sport, and it's even better that it's your own team that you've supported for many, many years taking part in it. So that's all I've really got to say on that, JB.
Well, we've certainly surpassed expectations. All of us, certainly as fans, we went into this at the beginning saying, we just want to do better than our one win. The aim is 2 wins, and just to make a good account of ourselves. And I think, we've not just made a good account of ourselves. We have turned a few heads, really. We have the one outright invitation to the CHL for the league winners. And like Aaron says, that's the right way to get in. If for want of a better phrase, we've sort of just shuffled in through the back door and walked into the middle of the room and just gone, "Hi, everybody!" So it's fantastic how we've performed, and it's also. It's also really good how we've conducted ourselves. If you look at sort of, opposing media, from media from opposing teams that's come off. We've had, one of our opponents, come out with some absolutely blatant sour grapes, and we haven't responded to that. We've just kind of got on with it. Done our thing, got down to business, and I think we've said this before. All of these, all of the things that we have done, we've done what we can to offset the bad press that the Elite League has. While we've been within this campaign, the Elite League has shot itself in the foot a couple of times, and it can be a little bit disheartening. But then. What we have done surely has got bigger implications than all the bad stuff that we've seen, all the bad press that has circulated. We've hopefully helped to drag the reputation of the Elite League back up in people's estimation. I think that both teams that have been in the CHL have been an absolute credit to themselves, a credit to this league, and if you don't want to be in it, don't be in it. Give it to somebody who wants to. If we don't win the league and we come second, and whoever wins it doesn't want to go, I'd say, do you know what, Neil, take us again.
Yeah, absolutely. On another tack, the Sheffield Steelers begin their Continental Cup campaign this weekend. They start in the semi-final stage. They're off to Denmark, and we wish them the very best of luck. Ant, this is something that you said, it's important that they win the tournament so that the Elite League will have 2 entrants in next season's competition once again.
Yeah, the more success that British teams have on the European stage, the better it is for the league. It'll attract better players to the league. It'll hopefully attract some major league sponsorship. You just have to look at the buzz that was created by us and Cardiff being in there this year, not just within the Elite League and the 2 sets of fan bases, but we've had fans from all over the country come in to watch these games. And then you see the away fans, how highly the away fans speak of the British teams and the way we've played, and it's just the same when the Brits go abroad, we have a good time, and I think the Europeans, they are surprised at how passionate we are and how what a fan base there is here in this country for the sport. So very best of luck to Sheffield. At the very least, I hope they make the super final. That should be the bare minimum target for them.
And of course, they start at the semi-final stage, so 2 from their group will go ahead to the super final, wherever that may be in January. So hopefully they can make the final, and then who knows from there.
Well, they might even bid to host it, in which case, depending where we're playing,
give them a better opportunity on home ice. But yeah, we shall see. We shall see what happens there. But good luck to them this weekend. Okay, we shall leave the CHL there, hopefully for no more than another season, and we'll hopefully be talking about it again in August. But back to domestic issues, and on Saturday the Panthers took on the Braehead clan in a Challenge Cup match. The Panthers need to win in order to qualify for the next stage of the competition, which they did. A 5-1 victory. Panthers goals coming from Dan Spang, Alexander Mokshantsev, Robert Farmer, Mark Delego and Evan Mosey. The clan strike. An equaliser at the time was scored by Ryan Putney. Guys, I'll hand it over to you because you weren't there and I was. So, ask me anything. Don't all jump at once, will you?
Well, now, I think this is probably the difficult thing, Jono, because you've already. I mean, you actually tweeted it on the night that Panthers didn't even appear to get out of second gear, and the game itself was actually quite dull. So.
In my opinion, yes. Yeah. But I mean, Panthers absolutely cruised to the win in the end. And the thing is, it was so one-sided because, to be fair, Braehead were incredibly poor. And it just didn't make it much of a spectacle because it was a cakewalk in the end. In fact, I think 5-1 probably flattered Braehead a bit. I think it could have been a lot more than that. Panthers just did what they had to do and took it easy. They've had a really tough schedule lately, and I think they had every right to take it a bit easier once they knew the game was won, especially with the two big games coming up this week. So yeah, there's not a lot to say about the game, to be fair, because it was just basically Braehead were poor and Panthers did what they had to do. Although some very, very nice goals were scored, and I'm sure you've seen on the highlights that the one from Dan Spang, the pass from Alexander Mokshantsev was beautiful to put him 1-on-1. Robert Farmer's strike was a great strike, and Evan Mosey just taking his time and picking his spot for the 5th goal. So some very, very nice goals scored, and also nice to see 5 different goal scorers as well. But really, apart from that, and please, if you think I'm being unfair, please feel free to tweet in if you was there at Cats Whiskers TV. I just didn't think it was that great a game compared to some of the other games that we've seen this season. But we had to win the game, and thanks to Sheffield beating Manchester, it means we qualify for the quarterfinals, and that was the main priority. So, job done as far as I'm concerned.
Can I just ask you, Jono, about Clan's goalie? Because for me, he was the reason they took the league points earlier in the season. I thought he was phenomenal. But from speaking to a couple of people that were at the game on Saturday, they were saying he didn't have the best of games. Is that a fair reflection?
To be honest, his save percentage wasn't great, but I think if it wasn't for him, the result probably would have been a lot bigger than it was, because he was basically hung out to dry by his defence. Clan they didn't look interested. You know what they reminded me of? They reminded me of ourselves in the latter half of last season after the Continental Cup was won. They looked just that's exactly how the team looked. They just didn't look that interested, if I'm honest. And I suppose that could be because I don't think they could have qualified despite whatever the result was on Saturday. So it was probably something to do with that. But I thought Ryan Nye had a reasonable game, and he stopped the scoreline being a lot bigger than it was. But he certainly wasn't anywhere near as good as what he was in that league game where they won 5-3.
Aaron?
To be honest, I don't suppose it's really a question just because you went to the game, Jono. I mean, I think it's just, I know obviously we're talking about Panthers in these podcasts, but I just don't really understand what's going on at Braehead, to be fair, because, you know, obviously Finner was there for a good number of years and they got close. Potentially I read that, you know, Gareth Chalmers said that maybe overachieved slightly during, you know, Finner's kind of tenure, and it's given people the expectation that they should be, you know, challenging for the league title, etc. But it feels to me like they've gone back, you know, 3 steps, and I just don't know whether it's, do other people, you know, do you think that, Jono, Tina, or
I think
is it just that, you know, they're just having a bit of a bad time, they haven't got the full import quota, etc., and it will get better? But I don't know, I'm a little bit worried, to be fair, about the plan.
I think it's probably more to do with one, I don't think their recruitment has been that great over the summer, and I think they've got a very inexperienced coach as well. I mean, John Tripp, he came from Germany, but he was only a coach there 3 or 4 months, and his record wasn't the greatest, to say the least. And now he's come here, and I just think it could be inexperienced coaching as well. And you know, you mentioned Finner there, and there was a lot of criticism about towards Ryan Finnerty from the Clan fan base towards the end of his time there. But I tell you what, I bet most of them wish they had him back now. Because it's always those things. Be careful what you wish for sometimes.
Very true.
So I don't. They don't look a patch on the team they've been in previous seasons. Not a patch. They don't look a threat. I don't think they're going to be a threat this season unless something drastically changes up there.
It worries me that they've waited this late to get their last import in.
Well, according to one fan who tweeted me on Saturday, it was because Clan are paying for the Panthers this season, which I find quite unusual. How a team with a 5,500 average crowd needs another team to pay for them. But there you go. You know, it's just the strange things that goes through fans' minds, and I'm sure whoever sent it to me is not exclusive in how they think. We have them in all fan bases, but yeah, that's by the by. They just don't look anywhere near the threat they've been in previous seasons.
So just to get back to the game, a couple of players we probably need to just have a little word on. First of all, Mark DeLego steps off a plane after returning home to be with his dad. Casually gets a 1+1, as you do.
Yeah.
Was it? How was he, Jono?
They played very well. Deserved man of the match, and yeah, you wouldn't have known he'd stepped off a plane and not trained with the team for 2 weeks. He just slotted straight back in, and that's massive credit to him for doing that. I'm sure he was suffering Sunday with the lack of sleep and having played a game, but fair play to him, and he took his goal very well. 2 bites of the cherry, but you know, he was in the right place at the right time and put it away. So well done to him. Definitely. And
obviously with DeLego returning, sending Gospel off to play for Hull this weekend, we were left with that extra import conundrum, and Schaller ended up being rested, and I think I read somewhere that it was a precautionary measure. So do we need to read anything into that?
I'm not sure really. I don't think so. I think it was probably just a precaution in order. He may have got a knock in training or something. Just rest it and be back for the game against Belfast. I'm certainly not too worried at the moment. I just think it's like it says, it's a precaution.
I mean, I suppose that's kind of what we've got the extra import in for, you know, those kinds of scenarios. So it's probably you know, nice that it's worked out. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I don't know if anyone else thinks differently to me, but I'm not too concerned about it at the moment.
I blame that top scorer jersey, because no doubt he would have had a few extra elbows and sticks during the 2 games against Zurich.
Yeah, I think we should I think we should campaign for the end of the top scorers.
Oh, I hate. You may as well have a target on your back. I've said it since the first time I was in the CHL, and I'll carry on saying it now. It's like having a target on your back. I don't like it, but I suppose it brings in sponsorship money and sponsorship cash, so I'm sure it'll stay. I'm not a fan, though.
No.
All right, shall we move on? Yes. We'll move on to Player of the Week. Before we do, some of the comments that you have sent in during your Player of the Week nomination forms, and it's, how did we ever lose to Braehead? They looked poor and unthreatening, which I entirely agree with, and I must admit it's something we talked about post game on Saturday in the pub, was how on earth did we lose to them earlier in the season? But that's sport, unfortunately. Another comment: Galbraith is playing out of his skin recently and should be Panthers starter over Garnett. Whilst Garnett was solid in the CHL, Galbraith has been miles above him in domestic games. Is that fair? I've got another comment actually regarding this. Galbraith is really pushing Garnett at the minute, in my honest opinion. Really must be a tough call for Corey on who gets the start. So the netminder situation, personally, I think it's a great situation for us to be in, where we've got two quality netminders fighting for that number one spot and fighting for the start, and both playing really, really well. I don't see a problem with it.
The only problem, I mean, I'm going to sound like a broken record. The only problem I see with having the three netminders is, and obviously we're trying to do something about that, is the development of Sam Gospel. It's all very well sending him off to play in the EIHL, but if we ever come to a point where we do need him in the Elite League, he's got to be fresh at Elite League standard. So it's good that what we've done to send him down there to get the ice time, and apparently he had an absolute stunner of a game, from if social media is anything to go by. But we need to still. He still needs to be sort of included in the rotation up here as well. Otherwise, there's a danger that his game standard could slip a little bit. So that's my only concern. But
with his qualifying for the Challenge Cup, the remaining game against Manchester is now a dead rubber, because Panthers are qualifying, Manchester can't. So there's an ideal opportunity to start.
Absolutely, yes.
Ideal opportunity to only play a 2-period game and finish it with penalties as well.
Let it go. It was last season. Aaron, your thoughts on the netminder situation?
No, I agree with you in the sense of, I think it's you'd certainly rather have that dilemma than be scratching around trying to find a netminder or an import netminder, etc. And I think it is both the points that have been made by people that obviously voted, like you said, are very good points. I like Galbraith, to be honest. I think he's a bit of a, the kind of no nonsense. He's very different style to obviously Garnett, but there's just something about Galbraith that I like. And look, he hasn't played as many games as Garnett, so I read the cage earlier today, and there was figures on there, and obviously Galbraith.
Why would you do that to yourself?
I know. I just, every time I do it, I ask the same question, Tina, but yet I go back for more. What can you say? But they had stats, and obviously at the moment, Galbraith looks a little bit better than Garnett's because he's not played as many games, etc., and he's performed quite well in those games. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it will work well this season, purely because I think Garnett, 34, hell of a lot of experience, knows that he's coming towards the end of his career. Obviously joined the Panthers because he's getting a university deal through it as well, and I think that's important to him. So I can't see Garnett, as much as he's a professional sports person that I have no doubt will want to play every game, but he comes across, and I've never spoken to the person so I don't know, but he comes across as a guy that understands that he might not be able to play 2 games every weekend. So I think he respects and understands that Galbraith is a major part in the team, etc. So I don't, and I think then Galbraith has the opportunity to really stake that claim for number one, if you want to class it as a number one or a number two or a backup import. And I just don't know whether that actually works for this club nowadays. I think we just have two import netminders. And I think it is very different because obviously I think, Galbraith is a far higher quality netminder than what we would have had with the guy that we was meant to get from, Hungary or wherever he was from. I think Garnett would have been definitely a starter for most games. Sakachenko, yeah.
The Ukrainian.
The Ukrainian, sorry, not Hungary. Apologies for all those Eastern Europeans over there. But there we go.
You got the right continent. Well done.
Yeah, exactly. I was close, weren't I? So, but yeah, I just think, Galbraith's a far higher quality netminder than what we were expecting. And I also think Corey manages, I think this is one of Corey's strengths. He can manage that situation, and I think he will do going forward. But it wouldn't surprise me if Galbraith, did eventually start maybe more games than Garnett if he carries on performing like he does. And I would certainly say that Galbraith is somebody that we need to be looking. I know we've got Garnett already next year, but if there's an opportunity to sign Galbraith up for another season, then I think that should be done as soon as possible if both parties are willing to do that.
Yeah, I would entirely agree with that as well. Just another comment here. Special teams normally win titles as those power play goals normally are the difference. What does Corey need to do to get our power play going? We look no better 5-on-4 as we do 5-on-5, and that can't be right. And we win 0 for 3 on the power play on Saturday night, and we've something that I think you sent earlier today, Tina, is that we have qualified for the quarterfinals of the Challenge Cup without scoring a single power play goal in the Challenge Cup. The
special teams? What special teams? Who needs special teams?
The power play has been a bit of an anomaly. It's not been great, to say the least. However, we are still winning games, and as long as we are winning games, I'm quite happy, frankly. It doesn't really matter to me that our power play isn't that great, as long as we are winning games. However, I can see the point that if it's better in those close games, it could make the difference. So what does he need to do to get the power play going? Because it has been pretty decent the past couple of weeks, and then Saturday it looked to have fallen back into same as usual.
I don't know, Jono, to be honest. We've been asked the question multiple times. We've all suggested various things. I want us to be more direct and crush the net. Adam wants the players to take control. I just don't know at this stage. It's one of those things that you just kind of sat there thinking and looking at the players that we've got, and you're thinking, this can't go on, surely. And then we thought we'd turned that corner with the 3-3 against Coventry, but now we're back to where we were again. So I don't know.
Fair enough. Last comment here. Great game Tuesday. Ultimately a terrible line change, and then penalty after penalty let the Lions' better quality shine through. Just wish their number 14 would have got some sort of justice for his numerous embellishments. Let's get this league won and back in the CHL next year. I couldn't agree any more with that comment. So thank you very much for sending your comments in, as well as your Player of the Week votes. We'll reveal that in just a second. However, we have had a tweet from our good friend Chris Lovell from Belfast. He says, just a little observation. We bemoan our league refereeing decisions, but it's not too bad. I mean, even Smith wouldn't have given that penalty against Northern Ireland. The EIHL could be worse. Nice one, Chris. I actually haven't seen this penalty decision, but I heard it was absolutely
shocking,
terrible.
Yeah, I saw it Friday when I was playing darts. It's not good. It's not good.
Fair enough. So thanks again for sending those in. So it's time to reveal the Player of the Week for this week. And in third place, Michael Garnett for a stunning display against Zurich on Tuesday night. In second place, he returned from Canada and got 1+1. It's Mark Delego. And in first place, for the second week on the trot, skate forward Patrick Galbraith. You take the Player of the Week plaudits once again this week. And Also on top of his Player of the Month award last month as well. So Patrick Galbraith in a rich vein of form in Cats Whiskers Player of the Week and Player of the Month award. So well done to you, Patrick. Can you make it a hat-trick next week? We shall see next week. Just moving on to the Nottingham Lions, they managed to win their second game of the season with a fantastic 3-2 victory in Whitley Bay over the Warriors on Saturday night, only to return to the NIC on Sunday and take a 9-1 beating by the Solway Sharks. After that game, defenceman Luke Thomas apologised to Lion fans on Twitter for the performance. If you want to see the Lions, they are at home again this coming Sunday. After Panthers take on the Devils, they will be facing the Telford Tigers. So watch the Panthers against the Devils, then pop over to the Olympic rink and watch the Lions. It's only £3 for Panthers season ticket holders to get in.
Also, they've got somebody famous as their announcer.
Not that I've heard of.
It's just, I don't know. It's just
not next Sunday. They haven't.
In.
Well, maybe they have next Sunday because I'm not doing it next Sunday. But if you want to see the highlights from the fantastic victory in Whitley Bay, head over to Whitley Bay's YouTube page, and there is highlights of the game on there. Okay, moving on to the rest of the Elite League results. On Wednesday night, the Sheffield Steelers taking on the Dundee Stars, coming away with an 8-2 victory. And the Steelers on Saturday night in the Challenge Cup, it was a dead rubber, but got a fantastic crowd of 7,000 at the Sheffield Arena, beating the Manchester Storm 3-1. A victory that ensured Panthers progress to the quarterfinals of this season's competition. In the league on Saturday night, it was Guildford Flames 7, Edinburgh Capitals 0, Belfast Giants 0, Cardiff Devils 3, Milton Keynes Lightning 5, Coventry Blaze 4 after overtime, and Fife Flyers 5, Dundee Stars 1. On Sunday night, it was Coventry Blaze 3, Fife Flyers 4, Manchester Storm 4, Milton Keynes Lightning 5, again overtime, Braehead Clan 3, Guildford Flames 2, a much needed victory for the clan. Cardiff Devils 7, Edinburgh Capitals 2, and the Dundee Stars 2, Belfast Giants 0. We'll start with the Caps. 2 defeats this weekend, 14 goals conceded, only 2 scored. They've lost more players this week. Is it now crisis time in Edinburgh?
Well, you know it's serious when Caps Banter Army's turning on his own team. I mean, I've just seen a tweet that they are expecting a new import in this weekend, and they're going to be announcing that tomorrow morning. But that's that they've had a bit of an exodus. You know, players just upping and going for whatever reason, and it's not good. They are absolutely rooted to the foot of the table, and even if they were to win every game they have this week, they still can't get off 12th. So they've got an awful lot of catching up to do. They've got a lot of work to do, and so far they don't appear to have the tools to do it.
Anyone else on the Caps? Because it's 2 points.
Well,
is all they've got.
Do you know what, Jono?
So, yeah.
Do you know what? The only person or the only people I feel sorry for are the fans. I have, that club is just, it's from the outside looking in, it's a joke, to be honest, because how many seasons have we been either doing a, Cats Whiskers show or a podcast, and we are talking about Edinburgh and how they haven't got imports in, or they've lost players, they're at the bottom of the table, etc., etc., etc. Edinburgh is one of the best cities in the UK. It's a fantastic city for any import or any British player that you could go and live in for, 8 months, etc., 6 or 8 months, whatever. So, but the fact is, nobody in Edinburgh even knows there's an ice hockey team in there, because they just do nothing to promote that club. Now, I actually thought at the start of the season, when they had a new website and you heard a few more sort of like social media things, etc., I thought, they've turned a bit of a corner and they're doing more and more. But it's the same old, same old. They do not help themselves. And eventually you're going to have, what's happened now is just going to be, on repeat, because it never changes. And I'm sorry, but they should never have got rid of Emerson. He understood that club, and he understood the fans, and he got them playing, and he got this point where other teams and other teams' fans, were rooting for the Caps as well, etc., and rooting for him. And now they've gone completely full circle and gone for a different route, which is totally up to them. But it's the same old, same old. So it's ridiculous. I don't see why or how they can carry on being in this league if this is what it's going to be like every year. And I just feel sorry for the fans that, go to Murrayfield, spend their money, and this is what they have to put up with. Like Tina says, it does say something when Caps Banter Army is actually putting, the Caps in his Monday night special. That's how bad it's got. And it's a joke.
Another odd story that came from the week is the Five Flyers having a puck amnesty, where fans were asked to return pucks that they may have caught in the crowd, or chucker pucks that they've kept. And I just didn't get that. I mean, Ant, can you make any sense of that at all?
It's worrying because the Scottish teams were the ones that, well, 3 of the 4 anyway, were the big proponents into this 3-conference system. The league ended up bending over to accommodate this 3-conference system because apparently it was better business-wise for the Scottish teams to be playing themselves, more often and what have you, rather than having a 6-6 split. And you've got Edinburgh, who are seemingly having their season in reverse, where the players are leaving at the beginning. So, knowing our luck, we play them at the end of the season, and they'll have a full stack of imports, and they'll be flying. But yeah, the 5 thing's just really, really weird. Whether it's because they had to spend the money to get that plexi up, which I understand they finally now got up.
But the thing is that anybody who brings a puck gets entered into a draw for a signed replica shirt, which is going to cost some money. So,
well, how much do pucks cost? I don't know.
I would think if you buy them bulk, a couple of quid a piece.
I mean, I think part of the problem is that they've not actually said why they're doing it. That's the part that has led to so much speculation. Maybe they're doing it because they want a new display in their museum or something. Which fine, if that's what you want it for, then blooming well say so. Because at the moment you're leaving yourself wide open to the kind of speculation that we're entering into right now.
The hockey fans are famous for, to be fair.
Well, exactly. No, exactly. But if you're doing it for some reason, some nostalgic reason, maybe you want to create a wall of pucks, a historical wall of pucks or something. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of another reason why they would want to ask for these things back. But if it genuinely is because they're running out and they can't afford to buy any more, that's massive alarm bells. Mm-hmm. That is absolutely huge alarm bells going off for me. I mean, like you just said, John, if you buy them in bulk, a couple of quid a piece, I mean, are they really so desperate for cash that they can't afford that?
Well, yeah, but this is the thing. Like you say, they're giving away entering everyone into a draw for a replica shirt. which is going to cost money anyway. So,
well, yeah,
which makes me think that it's not a money thing. They may have
already ordered that in. That may already be in stock. That might already be there as a spare somewhere or other. Or it came in bulk with the with the jerseys order at the beginning of the season. I don't know. Again, this is what I'm saying. If they want those pucks for any other reason, for some sort of display, nostalgia, whatever, then fine, say so, because the other option is ridiculous.
I must admit, I'd never thought about the museum side of things, because they have put an updated press release out today that asking for people's stories to go along with returning the puck. So that might actually feed into the museum side of things. If you check it out, if you've got a Five Flyers puck, hashtag pucktails and tweet the Five Flyers.
I mean, no reports on whether any pucks were handed in on Saturday, so it is possible that no pucks were given.
Oh, good God. How long have you been saying that?
Oh, all night I've been waiting for that. All night. The Manchester Storm returned to the top of the table thanks to an overtime point against Milton Keynes, who got a 4-point weekend themselves. Manchester at top of the table by virtue of the fact of having more regulation wins over the Panthers. However, they have played 2 games more, but on the same points, 22 points. So that's good for us. You know, we've gone into the weekend, we've had no league games, and we still find ourselves joint top.
Happy days.
Yeah,
that'll do.
Yeah.
Let's just stay there.
Not such great news for the Coventry Blaze, who after just a 1-point weekend with a couple of losses, or one in overtime, they have also lost forward Garrett Ladd, who has asked to be released from his contract and return to North America. I mean, Aaron, Blaze really seem to be blowing hot and cold. They seem to be getting 4-point weekends one weekend, and then the complete opposite the weekend after. They are really going from one scale to another.
Yeah, it's that good old consistency, isn't it, that we all look for throughout the season. And like you said, it's very hot and cold. You know, I'm actually quite glad they lost on the Saturday, because that meant I did win my accumulator. So thank you very much for that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just tough, isn't it? You know, it's hard because I think we discussed this even earlier on in the season, that, again, looking for consistency. You know, when we've played them or when they've had some good results, you think this is, you know, going to be the turn of the corner for them. And then they kind of have the weekend that they've just had now. So very tough if you look in that conference as well. It's you know, I think that's going to be a real tight conference, and obviously Blaze would have expectations of winning that conference. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do, obviously, with, you know, losing that important lad, and seeing whether they replace him or whether it just might be the start of a few people, you know, moving on, and maybe a bit of a refresh in the roster. But yeah, very tough country when you're actually doing an accumulators, because you're not sure which way to go.
Yeah, definitely. I have given up on. Absolutely given up.
Well, when the fun stops, stop. That's all I'll say.
The thing is, but I think that is a sort of indictment of how good the league is this season, how close it is, because I don't think I've won an accumulator all season. Because something...
We mentioned this last week, didn't we?
Yeah, it's just so unbelievable.
Oh, you boys and your accumulators.
Well, like I said last week, my accumulator for Saturday when we were in Milton Keynes, for £1, I could have won 250 quid if our game had gone to overtime. That's just... I got everything else right, except our game, and that's mad. For a five-team accumulator, it's the only thing to prove is there's just anything could happen in the EIHL.
I'll tell you what, mate, if you'd won 200 quid, the beers were on you.
Yep.
Well, it's the first time for everything. Right.
Hey!
We've had a question actually coming from Angus Wilson via Facebook. He's listening to the podcast, and it goes back to the Scottish teams again. He says, is there a danger of the Scottish team splitting away from the Elite League? If so, who fills their spot? I don't think there's an imminent danger of that happening. I think there's probably now a good possibility we could lose Edinburgh if they don't get their act together. But we've been here before, haven't we? Like Aaron says, how many times have we talked about this? And somehow they seem to keep surviving. I mean, the problem is for Edinburgh are in a similar situation as Telford were in. You know, when the EIHL disbanded, they couldn't go to the NIHL because there was already a Telford Tigers team in the NIHL, so they ended up disbanding. Now Edinburgh have got an Edinburgh Capitals SNL team, so where would they go? You know, they're sort of restricted as to what they can do. So they can't really. If they want to continue existing, they've got to continue in the Elite League. And if they want to continue in the Elite League and not be a laughing stock every year, they need to put their ideas up.
Yeah, I agree with that. To be fair, I think Tina makes a good point there, because, you know, just reading Angus's question again is, I think, you know, and I think it's obviously very easy for us to say it as Panthers fans just because of what we've experienced with the CHL. But the Elite League is growing season on season. And, hopefully the Steelers do well in the Continental Cup and then that we've grown again. I think what we've got to look at as a league is we've got to, at some point, say, do you know what? You have got to match up to where we want to be with a league, as a league. And that is... and if an Edinburgh or a Dundee or even, it doesn't have to be a Scottish team. I know obviously Angus is talking about the Scottish teams, but if the 12 teams that are in the Elite League can't perform to a certain level of where the Elite League want to be and portray themselves across Europe, then do you know what? We might have to take that hit and we might have to go down to 10 teams again or 8 teams again in the short term. But if that makes the league stronger as a whole and you don't have kind of like what Edinburgh are going through at the moment, then do you know what? I would actually support that because the league as a whole is stronger. There's only so long you can kind of hold on to, to what Edinburgh's doing at the moment without it sort of affecting the league in a bad way for me. So, you've got, I know you might have to take a short hit, but I think longer term, it might benefit the league. So, if they do slip away, I don't think it's going to be, the worst thing in the world. And like Ant said earlier, the Scottish teams were the ones that wanted these 3 conferences. And, if they can't put their ideas up like Tina says, do you know what? I think sometimes you might have to say, well, go and choose another path then if you don't think it's right.
Okay. We shall leave that there and we shall look ahead now to the games coming up for the Nottingham Panthers this week. And on Wednesday night, Panthers travel to the SSC Arena in Belfast to take on the Giants, a 7 p.m. face-off. Webcast available from Belfast Giants TV. Well worth tuning into. Now, Belfast not only scored no points over the weekend, but also no goals as well. I mean, that was unusual for them. But after they're flying high, I think they was on 6 games that they've won in a row. They've come crashing back down to earth with a bump.
Yeah, like you say.
Sorry, Tina.
Sorry. No, go on. No, you get involved.
I was just saying, Cardiff are on a similar run, so losing to Cardiff... Okay, you don't want to lose your home games, but losing to Cardiff is no shame. But the loss to Dundee, that's got to raise some eyebrows, definitely.
Yeah,
very unexpected.
They only have 14 skaters at the weekend because Jim Vandermeer was suspended. He returns to the lineup, but that still will only give them 15 skaters. I believe they're carrying a few injuries. It's not good times for the Giants at the moment, Aaron. So is this the ideal time to play them, do you think?
Yes and no. I mean, obviously, you'd be expecting a reaction from them. It's at home for them, so you think that probably gives them a slight edge. But then you could also say it is good because, we should be at full quota and have the spare import. So another decision to be made there. And I think for us, it's just about... we've obviously got to get I'm sounding like Corey Nielsen here, but get our feet moving early on. And I'd also say, play the body. Really let's forecheck hard, forecheck strong, and then let's try and use the fact that we've got a bigger bench to wear them down and actually hopefully take advantage of that. In the latter stages of the game. But I don't think we should. We shouldn't fear them. We shouldn't like be. Scared that they're obviously going to come out and try and put the rights and the wrongs of the weekend that they've just had. I think we're in a good richer form, and we've just got to make sure that we can keep our concentration and actually just get over the fact that we've had to travel away, etc. Like I said, and get our feet moving, and I think we'll be all right. To be honest,
Adam's first goal might be key.
Yeah,
because if we get the first goal after the weekend they've had,
it puts the doubt in their mind a little bit further.
But then if they get the first goal, they've finally scored a goal. First goal in 3 games, and everything's turning, and that gives them the buzz then. So first goal is going to be interesting on Wednesday.
I mean, Adam's tweeted in. He says, "Do you think we'll be on the end of a backlash on Wednesday after their weekend, or do we have enough quality to bring home the points?" Well, we've beaten them twice already this season, both games at home. I think we've got the quality and the depth to bring home the points.
Yeah, I think the depth is probably the key part in it. Really, with you saying they're short on bodies, that we might be going to them, but this is one of it's a rare home game for them at this end of the season. They're doing a lot of travelling at the moment, so that I think that's going to be wearing them a little bit. I've said it before in a podcast recently. If you're going to take points off the Giants, this end of the season is the time to do it, because I think they're going to be feeling it. I think they're going to be feeling the travel. They're certainly going to be feeling it with the injuries they've got, the suspensions that they've had, and what have you. So now is definitely the time. Yes, we are at risk of being on a backlash, because that weekend will be monumentally unacceptable to Adam Keefe. He will not have let that slide easily. I know he's got bodies banged up. He's got guys that are hurting. He's got guys that are tired, but he's not going to let that go. So that's going to be massively unacceptable to him. So yeah, there is a potential for us to be on a backlash, but it's whether or not they've actually got the energy to deliver it. It's like just to sort of take us back to when we were first in the CHL. And I know it's not quite the right comparison, but I just remember something that I think it was something that Corey said in an interview. They've got 4 quality lines that just keep rolling and rolling. I think he was talking about the Swedes, about Luleå. They've got 4 quality lines that just keep coming at you and hitting you, and just another sort of word to our 4th line, which I assume it's our 4th line. We've got Bettridge, Lacko and Lindhagen. Ever since they got put together in the Zurich game, over in Zurich, they've been absolutely fantastic. Yeah. So you can't really think of them like a 4th line, because they're playing so well. So you don't get a break, and it's not like Panthers are sending their 4th line out. We might actually get an easy shift. No, you won't. You are going to get hit hard by 4 quality lines, and if you don't have 4 quality lines to come back at us with, then you've got to hope and pray that we've got bus legs, in inverted commas, because if the Belfast Giants are as tired and as banged up as we think they probably are, then I think they're going to struggle to match us physically at the very least.
Yeah. I say Wednesday night is 7 p.m. Belfast Giants live TV for the webcast for that one. And of course, the important thing about that is a victory will of course take us back to the top of the Elite League table, as Manchester do not have a game on Wednesday night. The second game of the week for the Panthers comes on Sunday, a 4 p.m. face-off at the NIC against the Cardiff Devils. Devils have been in great form recently. They've won their last 6 games in all competitions, including their last encounter against the Panthers, 6-2 at IC Wales, which was incidentally Panthers' last domestic defeat as well. They have a game against Fife on Saturday in Cardiff, so could that help us out a bit? Because obviously we play on Wednesday and then don't have another game until Sunday. So do you think that makes any difference, Ant, with the Cardiff having a game on Saturday night?
No, because we had a so-called easier game of it before we went down there last time. They played Sheffield and we got absolutely, completely and utterly destroyed. So I want us to do to them what they've done to us. We need to start taking points off Cardiff now. We need to stop this run, because we've seen what can happen in the past when what was his name that came over and was amazing and went on that world record run.
Oh yes, I know. Yes,
yeah. That put them right in contention, and unfortunately they fell away at the last second. So we can't be allowing Cardiff, who are a quality side, to build that sort of confidence. And it's for me, these are 2 huge games, and we'll highlight our title credentials for us this weekend. These coming 2 games.
Yeah, if we can't take the points out of our Serena Wales, we've got to make damn sure they don't take them out the NIC.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, Aaron, do you think if we should get 2 victories from these games, with them being conference games as well, do you think that's when people might start to fear us, if they don't fear us already?
Fear, yeah. Certainly, I think 4 points from these two games will certainly make them stand up and say that we're serious about our domestic campaign as well, because I think a lot of teams might have been sort of hoping that we might have a little bit of a dip after coming out of the CHL, but the organisation and the coach said it from the start of the season, laser focused on the league, and if that is the case, and at the moment we've had no reason to doubt that, but these two games coming up are games that we've got to win. As Ant just said about Cardiff, that was a horrible night down in Ice Arena, Wales. It really was. It's the worst performance. I know we talked about it afterwards, but the worst performance of this year's team by a shadow of a doubt. But I think look, that's been and gone. We've had some good games since then. Cardiff are on obviously a good run, as you said. And I think it'll be it should be a great game. It's going to be one of those tight games for me, I think. And yeah, we will see what we're made of. And do you know what? I don't really care what anybody else kind of thinks of the Panthers or us this season. I think it's more about just us concentrating on ensuring that the ability that we have is on show for the games that we play in, for as many games as possible. Let's concentrate on ourselves. And you know what? If people worry about us and are fearful of us, then great. That's extra, isn't it? But I think we all know that this Panthers side could be a side that does go on to win the league, and it's just ensuring that we see the same sort of side that we're seeing. That we've seen in the CHL, that you saw on Saturday against Braehead in the Cup, even though it wasn't a great game. But do you know what? These are the games now. The Belfast Giants, the Cardiff Devils, these are the games that we've got to win. And these are the big games, aren't they? We're not going to get another CHL night this year, but these are the games that are the equivalent to that. So we've got to make sure that we're up for it, and that includes us as fans as well. We've got to make sure that the noise that we portray in that building for this game is the same as what was portrayed last week on Tuesday. So it is a big 4 or 5 days for this club to see where we're at, with what's kind of gone on in the last week or so. Okay,
and I think that's as good a place as any to leave it. No Ask TCW this week because with Belfast game, and I'm sure most of us will be watching the webcast, so we're going to take a break from Ask TCW for this week only. So we will be back next Monday. We'll be looking back on the Belfast and Cardiff games, so hope you can join us for that. All that's left to say is thank you very much to Aaron Lord.
Thank you.
Antoine Marie-Jeanne.
Not a problem, take care.
And Tina Taylor.
Ta-da.
And thank you very much to you for listening. We will see you next Monday, but until then, ta-da! This edition of the Cat's Whiskers podcast was brought to you by the Bunkers Hill Hockley.